Each month, Scott London has been giving us insight into our Texas Constitution and its parallel with the U.S. Constitution. Please welcome Scott London.
So the first time I started this was the last time that Colonel West was with us. And so it's kind of ironic then that it occurs to me that I actually didn't start at the beginning. If anybody's been paying attention to how I've been doing the presentations, basically I started with our Texas Constitution, Article 1, which is our Bill of Rights, and just started with Section 1 and kind of working my way down. But I missed something. I missed the preamble. And there's actually a very good lesson to be learned from our preambles. So tonight, we'll talk about our preamble. And in the Texas Constitution, it's quite simple. It says, humbly invoking the blessings of Almighty God, the people of the state of Texas do ordain and establish this Constitution. Amen. You know, that whole thing about separation of church and state, we had that talk, right? You know, there's nothing in there that says we're supposed to keep God out of our government. We want God in our government. And now I'm going to back up a little bit because I want to talk a little bit about our oaths. You know, we're talking about elected officials and people that are running and whatnot. Our oaths are very important, right?
Yes.
And, you know, we take an oath, and it says in Section 6, Paragraph 3, that we are to take an oath to support this Constitution. So there's actually a requirement in our Constitution that says we have to take an oath to the Constitution. But what does that mean? Okay, so we have to kind of look at, functionally, what is that oath to support the Constitution, or as it says in our Texas oaths, to support, protect, and defend our constitutions. And they come first. They come first for a reason. Because that is our top priority, is to support the Constitution. Yes. So when you look at the Constitution of the United States, it's often viewed in two parts. We have the Constitution and the amendments. But I think that's the wrong view. Because when you look at the Constitution, that's basically the structure of government. Okay, that's how we're formed, that's how we're supposed to, as I said supposed to, how we're supposed to operate. If anybody's been paying attention, we're not exactly operating that way, but that's what we're supposed to do. Okay? But then we look at the bill, we look at all the rest of the amendments and kind of lump them all together. But we all know, if we remember our civics class, what's the first 10? Bill of Rights. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice whenever we lump the Bill of Rights with all the rest of the amendments that come after that. And one of the ways that we can tell that those first 10 amendments were supposed to stand alone is they have their own preamble. Now, I don't know how many of y'all were aware of that, but the Bill of Rights has its own preamble, and here's a bonus trivia point. So when they actually introduced those amendments, did you know there were actually 12 of them? They didn't pass the first 2. And we're left with the remaining 10. That's an interesting little side note that you can look up. But I want to read a portion of the preamble from our Bill of Rights, because I think it's very telling. The convention of a number of states, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. Restrictive on who? Yeah. And as extending to the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the benefit ends of this institution. So they created the Bill of Rights to help prevent an overreach of our government. Right. So I'm going to circle back around to that oath. We take an oath to support the Constitution. What is that? What is our purpose? We're to protect the rights of the people. That's the purpose of government. I'm kind of making a long trip around. There's actually a shortcut to that same destination. Okay, so just to recap real quick, our oath is to support the Constitution. What does that mean? That means we are to protect the rights. Or we can also find that same evidence in the Declaration of Independence. Governments are instituted amongst men for what purpose? To protect the rights. To protect these rights, these unalienable rights. And we see that in the Declaration of Independence. So I wanted to remind everybody that the government's purpose isn't to make sure that everything's going well. It isn't to make sure that you're healthy. But it's not to make sure that you have money in your bank account. It's not to do so many things that we have now put on the shoulders of government. It's not to provide a nice park for us that You know, I mean, our national parks are beautiful, but there's really no constitutional authority for that. Matter of fact, you look at our 9th and 10th Amendments, we see that the number of authorities granted to the federal government are limited and defined. We could actually number them. But yet those retained by the states are numerous and undefined, right?
Right.
We forget that Big Brother in Washington, D.C. is actually a little brother. He just kind of outgrew his pants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? So anytime that I'm up here talking about the Constitution, remember, I'm trying to educate you on what your rights are, because if you don't know what they are, Big Brother's going to run over and take them away from you.
Yes, that's right.
So that's all I have today. Thank you for having me.